Hi everyone, and welcome back to the series where I stitch a card out of the Granny Square Stitches card deck every week all year long. We are up to week number 9, which is this one, and it is called the block stitch. And we get these squares, but if you flip the card over, check out the chart. Your squares start as sort of triangles or fans. So these are double crochets all into the same space, a set of 3. Now we recognize that, don't we? Because last week we did the granny stripe and we learned about granny stitches and how they are basically a granny cluster, or a granny stitch is basically 3 stitches, usually double crochets, all into the same space. And that's what we're doing again with this stitch. But we are alternating this row of single crochets and chains, and that gives you this fun pop of color. So I am once again using Anthem yarn, and I have got the colors Cactus and Lemon Ice. I thought that would be a good representation of the card. Okay, so before we get started, let's read the instructions, read all the words, as I like to say. Here is your pattern repeat. So your starting chain needs to be a multiple of 3, and then you're going to add 5. And then you're going to follow the chart. And here, to work the square shown on the card, make a chain of 14 and follow the chart, working odd number rows in yarn A. So this is going to be yarn A, is going to be my green, my cactus, and even number rows in yarn B. It's going to be my yellow. So guess what, guys? We're going to have a whole lot of ends to weave in. Yay! So exciting, right? Okay. I am going to try this with 14 chains and see how big we get. As we have, if you've been watching these all week, sometimes the squares are not equal in size. And I will go back to week number 2 where I followed the chart and my square is a bit smaller. So I am trying to keep them all about the same size and adjust the chart if I need to. So let's try it as is and see how we go. So I need to chain 14. So I've put a slip knot on my hook. Let's zoom in so you guys can see better. And to chain, I'm just going to yarn over, so the yarn goes over my hook, and then I pull that yarn through the loop that's already on my hook. And I'm going to do that a total of 14 times. So there is my chain of 14, and I am already suspecting that I need to add, but we'll try. If we look at the chart, here's my chain of 14, and then I'm going to count to see which chain I start in. So I'm not going into these 3. So I need to find the 4th chain from the hook and put 3 double crochets into that chain. As you know, if you've been following along, I like to work into my back bumps. So I'm going to turn my chain over and find my bumps. So I'm looking for bump number 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to yarn over first, insert into that bump, pull up a loop with 3 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through the first 2, yarn over, pull through the next 2. That's my first double crochet. I'm going to do that 2 more times, all into that same chain. As you can see, my chain has gotten quite sort of expanded. Now, so we've just worked into this chain, and now I'm going to skip 2 chains and do the same thing in the next chain. So that's my repeat pattern. I'm going to skip 2 chains and 3 double crochet into the 3rd chain. Oh, and I have to chain 1 in between these clusters. So I got to chain 1, skip 2 chains, into that 3rd chain, put 3 double crochets. Chain 1, come down to my chain, skip 2, go into that third chain and put 3 double crochets. Chain 1, skip 2 chains, and I should have 2 chains left. If we look at the chart here, I'm here. I need to skip 2 chains. I'm going to make my cluster into the second to last chain, and in the last chain I am going to put a double crochet and change color. So I've already chained 1. I'm going to skip 2 chains, and then I'm going to do my 3 double crochets in this second to last chain. That's 3. I don't chain after that last cluster. I'm just going to find my last chain and place a double crochet in there. So I need to change color, which means I'm going to start my double crochet. So I'm going to pull up a loop. I've got 3 loops on my hook. I'm going to yarn over and pull through the first 2, and then I'm going to bring in my yellow, lay it over my hook, and pull that through. And then I can chain 1 with my yellow. Okay, so let's take a look at what we have. And we're going to compare it. This bottom is going to be tight, just like the other one. I think it's going to be the right size. I did notice, this is a total aside, I did notice when I made this square that the bottom, my bottom chain was quite tight, and I had to like pull and sort of steam this block to get it square. So a good rule of thumb would be to make your chain in a larger hook size, because as you'll see when you're adding your double crochets all into that one chain spot, it tightens everything around it. But I didn't do that, so we're just going to go ahead and keep going. But let's take a look and see what we need to do for row 2. So I'm right here. I've done my chain. So I'm going to single crochet into the double crochet, and then I'm going to chain 3 and skip over this cluster, and then I'm going to single crochet around my chain space and repeat. And in the end, I need to put a single crochet into that chain 3, like the 3 chains that we skipped, the top of that. And I'm going to change color. So I have already chained. Oops, let's work with our working yarn and not our tail. I'm going to turn my work. I need to put a single crochet into that first stitch. That's a double crochet that we ended the row with. I'm going to chain 3 to hop over this cluster, and then in this chain 1 space I'm going to put a single crochet. Chain 3, whoops. And then single crochet into that next chain 1 space. Chain 3, single crochet. Chain 3, and then I need to find that beginning chain, and I need to single crochet into the top of it. So I'm just going to take a moment because I feel like this is a stitch anatomy lesson time. These are our 3 double crochets. So that V relates to that double crochet, that V relates to that double crochet, and that V relates to that double crochet. So I need to put my single crochet here. And if at all possible, you want to catch both loops of the V. It will help keep your edges straight. Oh, and I needed to change color there. So I'm going to stop. I pull up a loop. I'm going to stop. I need to cut my yarn from the other side and add it onto here. Like I said, we're going to have a lot of ends. Come here. And now, according to the chart, I need to chain 3 with my green. Let's look at the chart again. We're going to chain 3, and then we're going to do our cluster around this chain 3. We're not going into a space, we're just going around the chain, and then we're going to repeat what we did in a row number 1. So 3 double crochet around the chain, chain 1, 3 double crochet around the next chain, chain 1, all the way to the end, 1 double crochet in the end, and we're going to change color. All right, so let's take a look at what that looks like. Chain, 3 double crochet around this chain space. And chain 1. I'm going to skip over that single crochet and go into the next chain 3 space and do our 3 double crochets. Chain 1, hop over to the next chain 3 space and do our 3 double crochets. Oops. Chain 1, do 1 more set of 3 double crochets in this last chain 3 space. We don't chain 1 after this set, and we go right into that last stitch. We start our double crochet. We pause after the first pull through. We get our yellow. We pull that through, and then we chain 1. Ooh. Turn our work and repeat row 2. Single crochet, chain 3, hop over, single crochet around the chain 1 space, chain 3, single crochet. All right, so that is the pattern. And I need to find my chain 3 here. It's gotten a little bit crunched. It's just the nature of the beast here. And I'm going to switch color again. Okay, so that is the pattern. We're going to repeat that over and over. It looks like we've got 4 rows of these clusters to get to square. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and see where we're at, and then we can come back and do the border together. All right, I have done my 4 rows, which is what the pattern is showing. However, you can see that I am not close to the height. Well, I mean, I'm close, but I'm not at the height of my previous square. I'll hold it up against other squares. Yeah, so I'm going to do 1 more repeat, and then we can do the border. So, find my tail. I'm just going to pull back the last yarn over of my last double crochet. Yeah, I'm going to pull out the whole thing because it got all messed up. So I pause at my second yarn over, grab my yellow, lay it on my hook and pull it through. Chain 1, turn my work. Single crochet into that first stitch, chain 3, single crochet into that chain 1 space, chain 3, and repeat. And now I need to find the top of my chain 3 and get a single crochet in there and change back to my green one last time. So I'm just going to cut my yellow all together, attach my green, oops, pull it through. And then we can do one last row. So we start with chain 3. We're going to do our 3 double crochets in here. Chain 1, hop over, 3 double crochets in the next chain 3 space. And then a double crochet in the last stitch. And that looks more square to me. So if I do my trick about finding if your project is square, so you take your bottom right corner, you fold it up to your bottom left, and if your edges line up like that, you're square. Now, we have a lot of ends. I'm just going to pull a big loop there. And the sides are a little bit messier than I would like. So I'm going to take some time before I start the border to just kind of tighten everything if I can. I'm just going to tug on these tails and make sure there's no like excess loops and all that kind of good stuff. Sometimes when you do your chains, you just get excess yarn showing up. Now, you can choose to weave your ends in now. You can choose to tie them in knots like we did for one of the other squares. I'm going to leave them for now. I'm going to do my border and then I will weave them in after. Okay, doing the border. Technically, this is our right side. I'm right-handed. This is my starting tail. It's on the left, which means I'm looking at the right side of my work. So if I were to turn and do my single crochet border around this way, I would make this the right side. Is that wrong? No. So assess your work. Which side do you like better? I actually like this side better. So instead of chaining 1 and going backwards, like chaining 1, turning my work, and then working my border around this way, I'm just going to start from here and I'm going to start working my border around this way. That way my border will be on the right side. So to do that, I'm already in that space. So I'm going to chain 1. And I'm going to put a single crochet in the end there. Whoops, I yarned over. That was just me not even thinking. So if you want to use a stitch marker to mark that chain 1, go right ahead. And then I'm going to come down the side here. Typically, when you're doing a border, double crochets get 2 stitches, like 2 single crochets. A single crochet will get 1. So I've got 1 there. I'm going to put second one down near the bottom of the double crochet, and then 1 into my single crochet where the yellow is. And then we need to find 2 spaces to put single crochets, which is tricky because of all these tails here. So I'm just shoving my hook in there, trying to catch 2 strands of yarn. That will just give you a bit more stability and a straighter side. One into my yellow row. Get my tails all out of the way. One in there. And I'm just going to keep going like this. Okay, so now my last stitch of this side is basically right at the bottom corner. So then I can chain 1, turn my work. Now, some of these chains are going to be tricky to work into, even though I have gone into my back bump, so I have a really nice defined edge. Because we skipped stitches, it's going to be hard to find some of these stitches to work into, so we might have to work around them. Let's give it a try though. But basically along the bottom you want to work into each chain. And there should be 2 in between each cluster. Don't forget that. When you do your clusters right into the starting chain, everything gets pulled, so it's easy to miscount when you come back. Okay, I made it across the bottom. It was a bit of a struggle, but I made it. And now my final stitch needs to go into the bottom of this, the chain 3, like the skipped chains there. And then we need to chain 1 and go right back into that same spot. If we can. There we go. And then this is essentially a double crochet row, so we want to have 2 stitches. So I'm going to put 1 more up towards the top. 1 goes into my yellow row. Again, tucking my tails to the back. We're at a double crochet, technically a chain 3. So I want 2 stitches there. 1 into my single crochet row. So we're just mimicking what we did up the other, or down the other side. All right, so we're almost at the top. I've got my chain 3, my starting chain 3. So I need 1 at the bottom of that. Here are my 3 double crochets. So the V right beside that last double crochet is the top of my chain 3. So that's where my final stitch of the side goes. And then we can chain 1. I'm going to go right back into that stitch because that is the first stitch of my row. And now I'll put a single crochet into the top of each of these double crochets. Oops. I'm going to put a single crochet around the chain 1 space and then one in the top of each of the double crochets, and just do that all the way across. And then we got that one last double crochet at the end. We'll chain one, and then we can slip stitch to the first stitch of our round. So that is round number 1 done. And yeah, the bottom is pulling in like it did for my other granny square. Okay, so we just need one more round. So single crochet in each stitch all the way around. In your corners where you have your chain ones, you're going to single crochet, chain 1, single crochet, slip stitch to end, or do your invisible join, weave in all your ends, and you're done. Okay, so that is the block stitch. And next week we are going to tackle this one, the V-stitch. Super fun. All right, so I will see you then. Have a great week. Bye-bye.